It's not just a song, it's a love letter, a death sentence, and a rebellion wrapped into one haunting melody.
If we met up at midnight in the hanging tree.
The biggest song in the Hunger Games series is The Hanging Tree. It first appears in Mockingjay, then in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and again in Sunrise on the Reaping. There's layers of themes and symbols behind this song, but let's start with the literal inspiration for it, which comes from Ballad. As always, I'm going by book canon, and there will be some spoilers for Sunrise on the Reaping. And of course, I'll be discussing the sensitive topic of hanging, so viewer discretion is encouraged. All right, the roots of The Hanging Tree. Lucy Gray Baird is the writer and composer of this song, and she started working on it after the execution of Arlo Chance. He was convicted of the murder of 3 men, which occurred about a month earlier around the time of the reaping for the 10th Games. A peacekeeper and 2 District 12 bosses had been killed by an explosion in the mines. A criminal investigation had led to the arrest of Arlo, and his family had been known rebel leaders during the war. According to rumors Sejanus heard, Arlo was trying to sabotage coal production and accidentally killed these people. Arlo was the ringleader of the rebel sabotage, and others involved were still being tracked down. 12 didn't have a formal gallows set up, but they had this big hanging tree at the edge of the woods with a rough platform with 2 trapdoors below it. Have to mention this horrifying line from a sicko freak peacekeeper. He said before this platform was set up, they used to just string them up from the ground, but then they'd take forever to die, and who's got time for that? Hate that so much. By the way, we learn a bit more about Arlo's family in Sunrise, the Chance family. Woodbine Chance is the tribute Haymitch replaced after he was shot trying to run away from the reaping. We don't know Arlo's exact connection to Woodbine, but the Chances seem to be a large family and continued to be highly rebellious through the 50th Games at least, taking those chances. When Arlo was about to be executed, peacekeepers offered him a blindfold and he refused. He stood stoically staring into the distance as he awaited his end. He maintained as much dignity as he could here. The refusal of the blindfold is so interesting to me. I see it as choosing to face death head on and owning his actions. He's not going to hide his face because he's not ashamed of what he did to rebel. Plus, he's forcing everyone watching to see the horror of this. Covering someone's face for execution can be seen as a way to dehumanize them and hide the ugly reality of someone dying like this. It's like Arlo wants the Capitol authorities to be haunted by his face and the district folks to remember him and maybe feel inspired to rebel. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Before Arlo was hanged, though, a young woman at the front of the crowd cried out and tried to get to him, shouting his name. A man tried to carry her away. That was actually her brother, Spruce, and he's the one who shoots Billy Tote. Spruce's fate is different from book to movie. In the movie, he's hung alongside Lil and Sejanus. That does not happen in the book. Instead, Corio actually saw Spruce being taken into the Peacekeeper base clinic. He was severely wounded. The Peacekeepers had beat him up pretty badly, and he ended up dying from his wounds during the night. Peacekeepers surrounded her. The voice had an electrifying effect on Arlo as his face registered first surprise, then horror. "Run," he screamed. "Run, Lil, run!" Ruh! The clap of the trapdoor release and subsequent twang of the rope cut him off mid-word, drawing a gasp from the crowd. Arlo dropped 15 feet and seemed to die instantly. And then the Jabberjays eerily repeated his last words over and over, followed by Mockingjays chiming in, turning it into a sort of melody. This mishmash echo of people's last words was a regular occurrence, and Lucy Gray alluded to it earlier before her interview performance for the Games. The show's not over until the Mockingjay sings. And when Corio asked if they sang in her show, she said, "Not my show, sweetheart, yours." The Capitol's anyway. She's calling the hangings a horror show. The condemned are up on a platform, which is just another stage, and there's a whole crowd in front of them, and the Mockingjays sing the death cries at the end. A peacekeeper even said, "Show's over," to get the crowd to leave. And of course, the Hunger Games are literally an execution show. They frame it like a game, but it's just a way to televise the annual execution of 23 children. I gotta make a brief digression here. The aphorism Lucy Gray shared connects throughout the series too, since Katniss was the Mockingjay, and there's several important times where she sings. When Rue died and Katniss sang to her, that was a huge spark for the rebellion. You could say it was the beginning of the end for the Capitol's reign of terror for their show. Katniss also sang to herself at the end of Mockingjay while she was imprisoned during her trial for shooting coin. She's singing for weeks in solitary confinement after the fall of the Capitol, the end of their show. And then when she's home finally finally, and Buttercup returns and Katniss starts crying, she narrates, "A new sound, part crying, part singing, comes out of my body, giving voice to my despair." I see the show here as being basically the ending of the whole story of the rebellion, of all the deaths. Like, there's just a few pages left of the book when this happens. It's the last painful moment of the book, and she's crying/singing about how her sister died in the final bombing of the war at the end of the Capitol's horror show. After this moment where she cries, Katniss starts to come back to life. It's a new chapter. Isn't that cool? As a refresher, here are the lyrics to The Hanging Tree. I'm not singing. Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man they say murdered 3? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where the dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where I told you to run so we'd both be free? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where a necklace of rope side by side with me? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. Back to Arlo. This sequence is part of the first 2 stanzas of the song with the lyrics, "Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man they say murdered 3?" And then, "Are you coming to the tree where the dead man called out for his love to flee?" Arlo was charged with killing 3 people, and he yelled for his love, Lil, to run. As Lil was carried away, she gave one last wail of despair, and the Mockingjays picked it up, making a musical chorus of Arlo and Lil's exchange. Arlo, being the dead man, works in a few ways. There's the expression of "he's a dead man" or "a dead man walking" when talking about someone who's still alive but going to die soon. Arlo literally died after telling Lil to run, and then the Jabberjays repeated his words once he was dead. Layers. Lil and Sejanus were both executed at the same time. He had been part of the rebel plan to help her escape from prison and go north, and of course, Corio set him up to be caught. By the way, the Hanging Tree was Corio's first experience with Mockingjays. He didn't believe they existed before, so in his head, they're forever linked to executions, which is so fitting since he faced the Mockingjay at his own execution. Snaps for Suzanne. 2 days after Arlo's hanging is when Corio and Lucy Gray reunited in the meadow, and she was working on the first 2 stanzas of The Hanging Tree. Corio came up behind her, and the sound of him stepping on an old branch, which broke with a sharp snap, majorly startled her. This little detail is so good. I mean, it's specifically a snapping sound from a tree branch. And when people are hung from this tree branch, there's a snap. Gotta take a moment here. We learned that the Hanging Tree used to be a meeting spot for Lucy Gray and Billy Taupe when they were together. It's the one place in District 12 you're guaranteed some privacy, according to Lucy Gray. She tells Corio this when they're at the lake with the Covey, and she also tells him how the day before this, Billy Taupe had asked her to meet him at the Hanging Tree and run off to the north. He thinks there's people up there, free people. This clearly inspires the lyrics, "Where I told you to run so we'd both be free." Shortly after Sejanus' execution, there is a birthday party for Commander Hoff on the Peacekeeper base. Reminder, we're talking about the book here, and this part is not in the movie. The Covey was hired as entertainment, and Corio and Lucy Gray snuck off for a moment to talk about the big mess they're in because he killed Mayfair. The mayor is convinced Lucy Gray is to blame and doing everything he can to get her arrested and executed. So she's decided to run away, and Corio's going too, since he figures he'll be caught soon once his DNA is found on the weapon. They decide to leave the next day at dawn, but forget to discuss where they'll meet because Lucy Gray has to get back on stage. But she signals to Corio where to go by singing The Hanging Tree, the new full version of the song with all 4 stanzas. Corio interprets that the figurative speaker in the song is Billy Taupe, and he's singing to Lucy Gray. And this all checks out. Back when the whole murder incident occurred, Corio shot Mayfair and told Lucy Gray to get out of there right away. Being on stage would be her alibi, but Billy Taupe wasn't having it. He said, "Oh no, if I swing, she's swinging with me," which were his last words before Spruce shot him. Spruce was Lil's brother. This lines up with the lyrics of the song, "Wear a necklace of rope side by side with me." And it's fitting that Billy Taupe's final words inspire the final verse of the song. After the birthday party, Commander Hoff told Lucy Gray not to sing The Hanging Tree anymore since it was too dark, meaning to rebellious. So those are all the historical events behind Lucy Gray's lyrics to the song. Now let's discuss the meanings behind the other lyrics that repeat throughout the song. Strange things that happen here, no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree. Starting with strange, this can mean odd, unfamiliar, uncomfortable, or unnatural. I think in the context of the song, it's primarily meant to mean uncomfortable and unnatural. Hanging people is definitely uncomfortable and distressing to the executed and to the onlookers, and having a dedicated place to do this in your town on the regular is super unsettling. And I think doing this to people, period, is also unnatural, and I think Lucy Gray would feel that way too. Hurting people in this way, taking their lives, it's awful. It's also odd to meet at such a gloomy place, especially if you're meeting there to hang out with your lover like Lucy Gray and Billy Tope, or you're meeting there before going off in search of a better life. Since the hanging tree was a known place to go if you wanted privacy, all sorts of weird things could have gone on there where nobody was watching. Well, except the ghosts, I guess. But you can also apply a spiritual, supernatural meaning here, since it is a place where so many people have died. We know the Covey have some beliefs about the afterlife. We hear it in their funeral song, The Old There Before, which has to be my absolute favorite Covey song. If they sing it in Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm gonna pass out. Gladly. Anyways, when Lucy Gray is singing about the strange things that happened at the hanging tree, I'd say she's referring to the unseen, paranormal, haunted energy that one feels at such a place. And then with no stranger would it be if we met up at midnight in the hanging tree, an important distinction is that it's in the tree, not at. Meeting in the tree could mean being hung, and the souls of the hung going into that tree, becoming one with nature. That this meeting is always at midnight also ties into the supernatural element. Midnight is the witching hour, where the veil between the spirit and the regular world is thin. Lucy Gray's namesake poem is ultimately about a ghost too, so she may see herself as a bit of a ghost. She's not like other girls. When Lucy Gray was writing The Hanging Tree, she had no plans of meeting up with Corio at the tree to run away, and even when they do agree to meet there, it's not at midnight, so there isn't that literal element to these lyrics. It's more of that life and death symbolism. Midnight is majorly significant in the trilogy. There's several important events all happening at midnight. It's also 12 o'clock in the story about the people in District 12. I have a whole video about this called The Curse of Midnight if you'd like to check it out. I'll come back to this midnight thing in a bit after we finish up the ballad lore of the song. So when Lucy Gray and Corio meet at the tree and start walking to the lake, she actually says goodbye to the tree. Goodbye, District 12. Goodbye, Hanging Tree, and Hunger Games, and Mayor Lip. Someday something will kill me, but it won't be you. Woof. I mean, she's not wrong, as far as we know at least. She also left her wagon at the tree so the Covey would understand that she's run away. Shortly after she says this, Corio lets it slip that he's a man who murdered 3. Lucy Gray said, "It'd be nice in my new life not to have to kill anyone else." And Corio says, "I'm with you there. 3 seems enough for one lifetime, and certainly enough for one summer." Whoopsie daisy. He killed Bobbin in the arena, Mayfair, and is responsible for Sejanus' death too, since he ratted on him. But Lucy Gray didn't know that last part, and then he just lies to her face about it very badly. Fast forward to Lucy Gray making a break for it to escape serial killer Snow. He shoots at her, and he hears her voice singing The Hanging Tree. It's a diversion, since the birds will pick up her song, and a way to signal she knows what he did to Sejanus. He was hung. Corio has his full-on meltdown, he runs out of bullets, and every bird of every kind is screaming its head off while the Mockingjays continued their rendition of The Hanging Tree. Nature gone mad. The last mention of the song and ballad is when it's stuck in Corio's head as he's drifted off to sleep on his ride back to the capital. By the way, after Sejanus' execution, the peacekeepers are given an assignment to shoot as many of the Jabberjays and Mockingjays at the Hanging Tree that they can find. Coriolanus felt giddy as he blasted the Mockingjays off the branches, managing to kill 3. He also, by this point, had killed 3 people. Boom! On to what the song means in the trilogy. It first appears in Chapter 9 of Mockingjay when Katniss and the filming crew are visiting District 12 and they're by the lake house where Lucy Gray had last sung the song to Snow. Katniss hadn't sang this song since she was about 7 years old, and she knew it from her father. Lucy Gray and the Covey performed this song together, so they all knew it, it and apparently passed it along even though it was a forbidden song. Katniss remembers being a child and singing the song and sitting on the floor with Prim, making them necklaces out of scraps of old rope like it said in the song, not knowing the real meaning of the words. Then Mrs. Everdeen took away the ropes and yelled at her husband, which was very out of character. She's not a yeller. Baby Katniss cried and ran outside to hide under a bush in the meadow until her father came to soothe her and told her that they better not sing that song anymore. And her mom just wanted her to forget about it. But of course, reverse psychology, she remembered the song forever. It makes sense that Mrs. Everdeen Astrid was so against this forbidden song. She grew up as a merchant and was more of a rule follower than a daring rebel like Burdock. The lyrics were slightly changed in the Mockingjay movies, but they're more book accurate in the Ballad movie. In the book, the line was where they strung up a man, they say murdered 3, but the Jennifer Lawrence version says they say who murdered 3, and if we met up at midnight was changed to met at midnight. Also, the thing in the movie where Plutarch changes necklace of rope to necklace of hope in the propos is not a thing in the book. The video of Katniss singing it isn't even released as a propo. I'm not hating on these changes, I just wanted to add some clarity. Katniss grew to understand the meaning of the song, and her interpretation was pretty accurate to the literal events. She thought, it sounds like a guy is trying to get his girlfriend to secretly meet up with him at midnight. But it's an odd place for a tryst, a hanging tree where a man was hung for murder. The murderer's love must have had something to do with the killing, or maybe they were just going to punish her anyway because his corpse called out for her to flee. But in the third verse, Katniss's analysis diverges from Snow's in terms of Billy Tope being the speaker of the song. Katniss narrates, "You realize the singer of the song is the dead murderer. He's still in the hanging tree, and even though he told his lover to flee, he keeps asking if she's coming to meet him. At first you think he's talking about when he told her to flee, presumably to safety, but then you wonder if he meant for her to run to him, to death. In the final stanza, it's clear that that's what he's waiting for, his lover with her rope necklace hanging dead next to him in the tree." So overall, her interpretation is pretty spot on with history. She just has it so Billy Tope and Arlo are combined into one person. Of course, though, with music and art in general, the meaning is pretty subjective. An individual's experience, beliefs, emotions, and preferences all influence their interpretation of a song. Depending on her circumstances, Katniss attaches different meanings to the hanging tree throughout Mockingjay. In this first time she's singing it, Peeta is still hostage, and it's before the attack on 13. She's thinking about the man in the song and how she doesn't judge him because maybe his lover was already sentenced to death and he was trying to make it easier, to let her know he'd be waiting. Or maybe he thought the place he was leaving her was really worse than death. She identifies with the man because she had set out to kill Peeta when she woke up on the hovercraft after the Quarter Quell, thinking they had been captured by the Capitol. She saw it as a way to protect him from being tortured. I have a whole video about that ordeal if you're curious, by the way. Anyways, for a time, Katniss and Finnick both share this mentality that it would be better if Peeta, Annie, and themselves were all dead. Finnick even said at the end of Catching Fire, "I wish she was dead. I wish they were all dead and we were too. It would be best." Heavy. When Squad 451 is sneaking around the Capitol in Mockingjay, Katniss contemplates killing hijacked Peeta a few times too, in a combination of protecting people from his madness and putting him out of his misery, since the sane Peeta would never want to be this violent person. His existential fear going into the games for the first time was having the Capitol turn him into some kind of monster he's not. It's his worst nightmare come true. There's also the agreement between Gale and Katniss that neither is able to follow through with, to kill each other if they're being captured so that they won't suffer at the hands of the Capitol. Throughout the story, we see Katniss wrestling with the choice to end someone's suffering via ending their life, questioning if it's compassionate to end those lives or selfish to keep them alive. It highly depends on the situation, and she only makes the choice to end a life when there is no hope or chance of saving them. With Cato, she shoots an arrow to end his suffering as the Capitol mutts slowly rip him apart, and with Finnick, she detonates the hollow so he doesn't suffer the same fate. It's such a great parallel that Cato and Finnick were both careers who died in this similar fashion, suffering at the Capitol's hands and freed only in death with the assistance of revolutionary rebel Katniss. Cato suffered a lot longer, though. It was hours that he was being ripped apart. Can't think about that. Can't think about that. Peeta, though, has several moments in the story where he's like the dead man calling for his love to flee. He was very close to dying in each of these instances, so I think of it as he's like a dead man walking. First is in the 74th Games when he told Katniss to run away after she was stung by the Tracker Jackers, and then he stayed to fight off Cato and got a near-fatal leg wound. The last words he screamed at her were, "Run, run," just like how Arlo Harlow told Lil to run. Then, on his last TV broadcast in Mockingjay, Peeta warns Katniss and the rest of 13 that they're going to be bombed. He's warning her so hopefully she can flee and get to safety. Lastly is when Squad 451 is in the sewers and the lizard mutts are coming. Peeta is mentally connected to them somehow, terrifying, but he knows they're coming and designed to kill her. He tells her to run, get out, go, really bookending how he told her to run from Cato. This next moment here isn't quite a dead man moment, but it ties into the song. The last night of the Quell, BD instructs Katniss and Joanna to meet up with everyone at a tree 2 sectors away from the lightning tree. Before Katniss leaves to set up the wire, she tells Peeta she will see him at midnight. They have plans to meet at midnight, not in a tree, but at a tree. Then once the careers are attacking and everything's going nuts, she and Peeta are both sort of calling out for the other to flee. He's repeatedly yelling Katniss and she's yelling Peeta, I'm here, trying to get the careers to come towards her and away from him. They're both trying to save each other. Katniss is by the lightning tree, and at midnight, the lightning strikes and she blows out the arena. They were not able to meet up at midnight at the tree. And then when they're actually reunited in Mockingjay, it's at midnight. And when Katniss and Peeta reunite, what does Peeta do? He locks his fingers around Katniss's throat. He tries to strangle her. What happens to people when they are hung? Oh my golly. I also see a Katniss-Peeta connection with the line, wear a necklace of rope side by side with me. It reminds me of the Nightlock berries. They were both about to die together, by their own hands. They were standing back to back in the book, so not exactly side by side, but close enough. They were gonna head into death together. There's some things that stand out about necklaces in the story. There's only a few in the trilogy. Most notably is Peeta's token for the Quell, which was a gold locket necklace. And inside the locket are photos of her mother, Prim, and Gale. Peeta gives this locket to her in hopes that she will survive the Quell and live out the rest of her life with loved ones. It's interesting here because this necklace sort of toes the line between symbolizing life and death. Peeta goes into the games wearing it, planning to die in place of Katniss, and then takes off the necklace and gives it to her to remind her why she should live instead of him. It's not a condemnation rope necklace. It's more this beacon of hope. There's also a quick mention of a silver locket when Katniss is telling Peeta the story of how she got Prim's goat when they're in the cave. She used money she got from selling a deer that she'd hunted to buy this goat, but since she can't talk about illegally hunting on television, she lies and says she sold an old silver locket her mother had. I wonder if this mention of a locket helped give Peeta the idea for his locket. Effie had initially suggested he have a golden ankle band for a token, so the locket was all his idea. The only time Katniss mentions wearing a necklace herself is when she's in her wedding gown for the Quarter Quell interview. Joanna straightens her pearl necklace and says to make Snow pay for making her wear this dress. And then, of course, Peeta gave her a pearl he found soon after giving her that locket. Pretty cool link, right? I'm not 100% on these necklaces being references to the necklace of rope, so I'd love to know what you think about it. Rue's token was also a necklace. It was woven out of some kind of grass, and it had a roughly carved wooden star on it, or maybe it was a flower. She said it was a good luck charm. We see a lot more necklaces in Sunrise on the Reaping. They're essential to the rebel plan, so I can see a bit of a connection there with the rope necklaces being associated with rebels, but what do you think? But with Rue having this woven necklace, sounds more like a rope necklace. It's interesting to think of how when Katniss and Peeta are on the victory tour in District 11, really the first public execution that we experience as the reader is the old man who, does the whistle, the salute, and the crowd joins in and he is shot. He's doing the Mockingjay whistle. This whole demonstration is inspired by Rue and Katniss. So I feel like there's something there with Rue having a rope necklace. Moving on, Gale compares himself to the man in the hanging tree a little after Katniss first sung it in 12. He brings up how Katniss kissed him in the kitchen after he was whipped. He's trying not to cry and says how he'd have to be dead to forget that kiss. Maybe even not then. Maybe I'll be like that man in the hanging tree, still waiting for an answer. I hate when I feel bad for Gale, but I do here for a moment. He's genuinely hurting here and wondering if he'll die before Katniss chooses or doesn't choose to be with him, if she'll meet him at midnight as his love. Gale was definitely willing to die for the revolution in battle and seems to be aware that he could die very soon. It's not that dramatic of him to say, I wonder if we'll get together before I die. After he says this, Katniss kisses him to prevent his tears from spilling over and is called out by Gale for only doing this because he's in pain. She always wants to alleviate the suffering of people she cares about. When Gale goes on the rescue mission to get Peeta and the other victors from the capital, the hanging tree is stuck in Katniss's head. She's sitting with Finnick, manically tying knots, perfecting her miniature noose, a rope necklace, thinking of Gale and Peeta and this song. I see it as Peeta embodying the second verse. He's the dead man who called out for his love to flee. And Gale's the third verse. He encapsulates the lines where I told you to run so we'd both be free, since he had always talked to Katniss about running away from 12, and eventually he did when the district was bombed. After Peeta was hijacked as part of his recovery, he's shown the clip of Katniss singing the song. When he was a little kid, he heard Katniss's father singing it when he came to trade at the bakery. He was about 6 or 7 years old, which is around the same time Katniss was learning the song. And of course, the whole thing that started off Peeta's crush on Katniss was his father pointing her out and telling him that her dad had this amazing singing voice. What's even more special about this moment is that it's the first time hijacked Peeta was able to experience a connection to Katniss without having an episode. They're both so enmeshed in this song thematically. Reminder, in the book, this song doesn't become a part of the revolution the way it is in the movie. But I really do love the way they changed this in the movie, though. Like the scene where you hear a chorus of people singing it and they're going to bomb the dam. Oh, it gives me chills every time. But respectfully, anyone involved in making that rebel remix of The Hanging Tree belongs in jail. I'm sorry, but it was a bonkers move and I hate it. The song pops up again in Katniss's head after Peeta had that whole episode while they're in combat that resulted in a fellow soldier's death. He pushed him. Peeta was horrified that he did that and was begging the squad to kill him so he doesn't do that again. And he doesn't want them to just leave him behind since he'll get captured by the Capitol. So Katniss thinks about Peeta being tortured again, and for some reason, the last stanza to The Hanging Tree starts running through her head. The one where the man wants his lover dead rather than have her face the evil that awaits her in the world. It's pretty clear why she's thinking about it, right? Is it better to have Peeta dead to save him from himself or not? And then Gale so helpfully chimes in with a promise to kill Peeta before he gets captured. But Peeta turns down his offer, though, since there's too much room for error, and asks for a nightlock pill, tying into how he almost died together with his love, Katniss, with the nightlock berries, side by side. Katniss thinks about how this would be an easier way to deal with Peeta. Nobody would have to shoot him, and they'd no longer have to worry about his episodes. And she feels like she's back in the arena, battling not only for her own survival, but for Peeta's as well. And how entertained Snow would be if she finally killed him. Because that's what he wanted her to do in the 74th games, when they both made it to the final two and the rule change was revoked. I imagine Snow hoped that cold-hearted girl from District 12 would show how much of a selfish monster she is and shoot the boy who loved her, majorly projecting his delusions about Lucy Gray onto Katniss, of course. But Katniss didn't kill Peeta, and the only way she can stomach his death would be if she died along with him. Necklace of rope, side by side with me. So Katniss dismisses Peeta's request for the nightlock pill, sort of calling him selfish for asking this of the squad. It's not about you. We're on a mission and you're necessary to it. Then says to the group, think we might find some food here? She just fully shut Peeta down. He doesn't even respond. And then turns her attention back on basic survival needs. Classic Katniss move. Jumping back into her comfort zone of figuring out how to put food on the table. It would be practical to get rid of Peeta right now. He's dangerous and out of control. In the games, it would have been practical to let Peeta die of blood poisoning instead of putting her life on the line to get his medicine at the feast. But emotions often overrule practicality. Her feelings for Peeta eclipse her animal instinct for self-preservation. The final mention of the song in the trilogy is when Katniss is recovering from her burns from the Capitol bombing. She's going through withdrawal from the pain medicine and hallucinates her father singing the entire song and reminding her not to tell her mother about it. Perfectly bookending that first mention of the song. Snaps. In Sunrise on the Reaping, the song is also mentioned a few times. It's still known by people in 12, kept alive by the Covey and their descendants, but it's forbidden to play it in public. When Haymitch is on the train ride home after the games, the hanging tree pops into his head. Lenore Dove plays it for Burdock sometimes, which is Katniss's father. It's unclear if he learned the song from Lenore Dove or from his own mystery Covey ancestor on his mother's side, or just from it being a known song in 12. But either way, it sounds like he particularly liked this song if Lenore Dove was playing it for him, implying he requested it. Here's what Haymitch thinks about the lyrics of the song. Strange things indeed. A dead man calling out, his ghost. No, Lenore Lenore Dove said it was bird, birds, jabberjays, the failed mutts let loose to die in District 12, but they defied the capital's sentence of extinction by fathering a new species, mockingjays, before they vanished. Is that what makes the song dangerous? Immortalizing those wayward mutts in a song? Or is it the capital hanging someone who was likely a rebel? That's who died in the hanging tree. I know this tree. It's real. My pa pointed it out to me. We have metal gallows in District 12 now, courtesy of the capital, but back in the day, many a rebel died swinging from its branches. Maybe Lenore Dove and I will hang together. Could be easier to find her then, in that next world of hers. That's as close to comfort as I can get. I'd say that's all pretty straightforward, not any new meanings added really. It's just showing that Haymitch knows a bit about the history of the hanging tree and that he shares the sentiment of wanting to die with his love. We know that doesn't happen though, because of that final promise to Lenore Dove to stop the sun from rising on the reaping. That's the only mention of the song in the book, but the hanging tree is mentioned at the end when Haymitch finds Lenore Dove's spray-painted message. She wrote, "No capital, no hanging tree, no capital, no reaping." It's interesting she wrote about the tree since it's no longer the place where people are executed. Overall, she's just voicing opposition to hangings, but referencing the tree adds more historical and cultural context. Haymitch sees it as Lenore Dove giving him a sign, reminding him of his promise to live on and be a rebel, fighting to put a stop to the games. What do you think it was like for Haymitch when he saw the recording of Katniss singing the song? He was part of the team showing the clip to Peeta, so he definitely watched at least once. In his head, the song is forever linked to Lenore Dove and Burdock, and then Peeta reveals he heard Burdock sing that song. What a gut punch. It's bittersweet though, since it was a good moment in terms of Peeta's recovery, like a little gift from his old buddy. Maybe Haymitch even saw it as a sign from him, a message that Burdock was watching over them. I'm not gonna tear up about this again. It happened when I was writing this video. I'm gonna be strong. Do you have any other takeaways about this song in Sunrise? Let me know in the comments. That about wraps things up. Honestly, I put off making this video for a long time since there's an overwhelming amount of lore behind this song, but I'm so glad I finally did it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I can't believe there's almost 45,000 people subscribed to listen to my glorified book reports on the Hunger Games, so thank you for being here. Special thank you to my patrons, Jacob, Captain Jamie, Dakota, and Soraya for sharing their interpretations of this song in our group chat. And thank you to everyone in the Patreon. Your support means the world. If you're interested in joining, check out the link in the description. On it are ad-free versions of my videos, and they're also available to download in podcast format to your favorite app. There's also regularly scheduled live streams and more. As always, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, subscribe for more Hunger Games analyses and do the thumbs up thing.